thank you for coming in and checking out the D Tub show. I'm your host D Tubbs, and today got my brother and sister here with me. We're gonna kind of discuss the major event of the week, which was the presidential debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, and just to kind of level set with everybody, nobody here is a Democrat or a Republican. We're just three independent voters having a conversation about what it is that we observed and sort of the fallout that kind of came as a result of what we experienced. So, Brian, Denise, hello. It's good to see you guys. I'm going to ask you guys right before we get started. This is a safe space. This is a place to air grievances over a drink or two, with a laugh or two along the way. So I will share tonight. I am drinking a little cognac for those that are interested. This is Remy, VSOP. So that's what I'm sipping on tonight as we have this conversation. So Brian, what are you sipping on this fine evening?
I guess I probably can't show it here, but I have a spare because I'm always prepared. So drinking Kitty Paw. So
Yeah, getting close, good.
some bum hipped me to this not too long ago. So no, I'm kidding. My brother hipped me to it the other not too long ago. So that's what I will be sipping on this evening.
Fair enough, Denise.
I took the teetotalers route, and I'm drinking smart water.
Nah, well,
So the
you're the
33 ounce.
you're the smartest of the three of us, so that says more than
Oh, shut
um.
up.
Oh, I should also
Yes.
mention I have a Bravazzi in the hole.
Oh, now
Oh,
those
So
this PSA, not sponsored by Braze, but if they want, holla at me. But that
please.
is the best tasting seltzer you can buy, that money can buy, is that Braze. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
yes, Lord.
Well, I
Yeah.
expect one of you to treat me to one of those one day then.
Yes, that's not a
So the
problem.
plan.
We can arrange that, and I'm sure the good people at Braze can do that too. So with that, uh, I guess we'll just start. So, Denise, I'll pass it to you first, ladies first. Give me your overall impression of what it is that you observed during that debate. Sort of what were the highlights, takeaways from you? Like, what were some themes that came out of it? Like, what was your take on what it is that you saw and observed as an independent voter?
Well, I'll start with something that I sent to you and one of our coworkers, that I would first like to send out an apology to all of the other presidents that have been considered to be terrible.
Mm,
So, Franklin Pierce, um, uh, and Herbert Hoover.
maybe a
Um,
little
Oh,
James Buchanan in there.
no, James Buchanan is not forgiven. And neither is Richard Nixon, but the rest of them, I apologize.
So you drew the line.
Um,
So
I drew the line at Buchanan and Nixon because what I saw on Tuesday showed me that this is an incoherent person. The fact that I felt the need to tell my dogs the next morning that they would not be eaten was just something that I didn't think I would have to do
I think a
in a
lot of people.
presidential.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just overall she mopped the floor with him, and it boggles my mind that there
Mhm.
are people out there who truly believe that he won. I don't know how. I don't know what planet they're on. I don't know what weed they're smoking, and quite frankly, I don't want it. Um, I don't want that kind of high. And
We don't do that, people.
no, no, no. It truly was. It was bad. It was a bad night for him. But then again, every night is bad for him. I think what really sealed the deal for me were a couple of things. When she hit him with the 81 million people fired you, and you seem to be having a problem dealing with that.
Mhm.
That one definitely went in pretty smooth. Um, and then his entire rant about the cats and the dogs. And then of course this morning he was talking about the geese. Now the geese are in the mix here. And the geese, by the way, are fighting back in Springfield. I don't know if you've seen that viral video yet. but there is a video of the geese attacking a man. So they
Well,
know.
I will
Oh,
say
clearly
there's
you should fight back. I mean, you shouldn't take anything lying down.
No, not at all.
good
Not at all.
advice generally all the way around. I will say there's a picture of a man that is a black man that is carrying, a goose or a geese, however you say that, down the street, and apparently they're trying to
Goose is
say,
singular, geese is
yeah,
plural.
sure, and he's just carrying one of those birds. I'll just say it that way. And this one went viral trying to say, see, look, they're eating the geese now. And actually, that was a picture taken by a photographer here in Columbus, Ohio, and not in Springfield. So
Well,
it's
Ohio looks the same no matter where you go, right?
well, it is flyover country, so I can imagine from 30,000 feet it all looks the same. But Tubbs, what was your overall thoughts, impressions? What were your sort of your takeaways of the themes that you picked out Tuesday night?
Well, I had a couple. So the first was not aware of all the things that are going on in Springfield. So that was revelatory to me. So that's one. Uh, Two, um, I didn't realize, and I'm not, this is not in telling anyone's intelligence. I don't need to hate my life, but I didn't, every time she laid a trap, he walked right into it. And I just felt like at this point, this is your seventh, I think it was the seventh, right? His seventh
That
presidential
sounds
debate.
right. Yep.
This isn't your first one. So how you continuously just keep getting goaded and taking the bait, hook, line, and sinker every single time. Um, I don't get it. So I think generally, Denise, I think your observation is correct. I think that she won. I don't necessarily think it was close. I do think that when something came up that made her uneasy, I don't feel like she necessarily, I don't want to say good answers for it, but I feel like
I agree.
compared to who she was going against, I mean, it looked like she might as well have been, she was amazing, I guess, compared to her competition. But generally speaking, if it wasn't Trump and it was somebody else, I think they probably would have, had her on her toes a bit much. Um,
Someone who was a little more disciplined and
a
not.
little more
Yeah.
disciplined, had the message, whatever. Um, the weirdest thing that I think observed, and I think all of us were technically at the same time, so we all heard it in real time. And
Yeah.
when Trump was like, she puts out, and I was like, what? That's
My
weird.
initial, my initial thought was, but first of all, how do you know that? Because she's not your type. And B,
Yeah.
yeah, or it's like a Freudian slip, like it's like it's like that Drewski skit where he's like, so what did you mean by that?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you wanna elaborate
Yeah.
or
Oh,
That's kind of the vibe I got. Like, what did you mean by that?
and I guess the other thing that I was able to, I always struggle, and Dennis knows this. I always struggle with what to name my fantasy team every year. And so after watching
Oh,
the
you got a
debate,
good one. You got a
I
good one.
decided to name my team Concepts of a Plan. Um,
what's funny?
It's
As
only
soon as
right
you,
that
it's
yeah.
funny you say that because our mother actually Googled what concept of a plan means.
hmm
you thought it might actually like meant for something else. God bless.
Yes, it would take her to explain what she read, but because she was like, it's just an idea.
Yeah, it's just
That's
I said,
that's a later pod.
yes,
Um,
yeah.
but
so
That's
those
a
are my
different.
kind of my immediate observation.
Um. Okay. I would tell you that my initial thought was before they even got into any conversation. When she walks in and as she walks
yes,
across in a
Oh
straight
yeah,
line,
that.
he makes like a beeline for like his
his personal
luxury
space.
rotary thing. And she was like, "Oh no, 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 no! You will look me in the eye, you will shake my hand,
Yes,
and you will know that we are here we're here to do business tonight." I personally thought it was over right there, just
yeah,
off body language. Secondly, his inability to look her in the eye, because I'm a real big believer in body language, because that's like the one thing you can't fake, at least to me, is
hmm
body language. And so I try to be self aware of my own, but sometimes your emotion takes over and you just feel how you feel and you're just going to wear it and that's it. and he wore it. Like he just felt he looked as if he felt massively uncomfortable that he had to be there having conversations with someone that he clearly had no respect for because he wouldn't shake her hand and he wouldn't look her in the eye. And
And
I
Yeah.
other takeaway I had for me is when he starts talking about the dogs and cats, he starts by when they try to fact check him real time, he says, "But they said it on TV." And
yes,
my initial thought there was that is the answer I would expect from someone his age that watches nothing but exclusively far right wing news outlets.
so
It's
your Fox News, your Newsmax.
gotta be true. But it's not just Fox News. I don't want to pick on them in particular,
Well,
but
that's why I said Newsmax.
OAN and all of like if you just lived in that echo chamber all day, well, it was and kind of what it reminds me of is if you remember Anchorman 2, where they're all working for the brand new cable news network,
I never
and
saw it.
people are just watching it, consuming it like it must be true because it's on TV. But you know what I'm saying? Like that was my overall impression was that to your point, Tubbs, he kept taking the bait because like he was undisciplined. And the other thing I just kept thinking is I'm massively exhausted by this man twisting himself into a pretzel, trying to tell people what they want to hear to get the vote when he doesn't really believe in any. Because the history shows that. And I want to be clear I have no idea if Kamala Harris's policies will work. I have no idea.
None.
But what I would say is there's two people on stage, but only one of them appeared to be able to be capable of legitimate, unbiased, critical, and analytical thinking, both in the moment and being prepped in terms of I can absorb the information you're giving me and make an informed decision.
Well,
Only one of those people seemed to come across that way, and it was very obvious who that was. That was my overall impression.
Denise, we kind of talked about this the other day, but I think that I'm not a policy wonk. I'm not that dude. But if your options, it seems like if being independent, if my options are somebody who has a plan, or at least I don't
More
want
than
to
a
call it
concept?
more than a
More than a
concept,
concept.
and
More
is
than a
actually giving
concept.
it some thought, like real thought, and then I have on the other hand somebody who hasn't really thought about it and just kind of wings it. I mean,
I'm gonna go with
I'm
that
not the
for
most prepared person in the world, but there is a level of preparation that I felt that she had that he didn't. And for that specific role,
Mhm.
I need somebody who's going to be prepared. I need somebody who's going to do the homework. I need somebody who's going to be able to, give me a sense of that they are going to, when, I don't want to say when the world falls apart, but when things are going down, she feels like she could be the grown up in the room.
So what you're
And
I
saying, if I understand you correctly, you need your president to be a shelter in a time of storm.
yes,
mm,
but
especially in a
um,
weary land. So,
Yes, weary land.
in a weary land. If as the kids would say, if you know, you know. Um,
That's right.
so I just felt like for me, or a perspective that I heard that I had not thought of until I heard it, but the lack of preparation on his part is not necessarily indicative of how he would do the job or has done the job, if you will. But, that tells me that, I feel more comfortable with her if she's going to, what's the expression? Um, that past performance is a indicator of future performance,
Mhm.
right? So if this person is consistently can reuse her stuff, knows her stuff, always prepared,
Right,
and I
right.
have somebody who's not doing it, and the stakes being as high as people um, say they are, then I
Yeah.
would much rather have the person who is prepared. And we can talk about this another time, but I'm kind of burnt out on everybody telling me this is the most consequential election of my life. It seems like every year
Well,
election is the most consequential
I've
election of my
been
life.
hearing this since
I would
2008. Like,
I've been hearing it since
I
2000.
mean,
I know
like,
I've heard it since 2000, and we could do another pot on that another day. But it
yeah,
can't. every 4 years cannot be the most important election. I know that democracy is a living, breathing thing, and we have to continuously like work at it and
And you
tell
know
it and
what?
do all those things. But I
I'm
would be
go.
interested. I would be interested from a historical perspective for somebody to literally take a look, sit down, and figure out what actually is the most consequential election of our lifetime and where did it go? Because it can't be every
But you,
4 years.
I'm glad you said that because
Well,
I do feel like, and Denise, I'm going to ask you a follow up question, but I do feel like this is where, and this is why I like being not associated with any sort of political party. I can just kind of call balls and strikes as I see them.
yeah,
For all the fear mongering on the right, the left does their own fair share of fear mongering with to your point, this is the most consequential elect. Well, what happens in 4 years from now? Is that the most? And this what like you can just beat somebody over the head enough to where it's like, okay,
Every single
like
time.
like it's the Chicken Little syndrome. Like the sky's always falling. And I don't think that fear mongering on either side is helpful. But Denise, the question I do want to ask you is in the last debate, even if you thought Biden won, he left you with the impression that that man doesn't have his fastball anymore. He's just not as sharp as
no,
what he was 4 years ago or even 2 years ago. So did you get that similar vibe from Trump that, you know what, this is not the same man that ran for president 8 years ago or even 4 years ago? Did you get the sense that all of a sudden he's the old man on stage that couldn't keep up and that youth was prevailing? Did you get that impression?
yeah. So short answer, yes. However, it's with an asterisk.
Yep.
Um, Trump has always been like that, and so therefore, my expectation is not that it. I'm not expecting much.
Okay.
So, um, to your point of this is the most consequential election ever. And Brian, you are correct. I mean, we've heard about it since at least 2000. Um, I would say that, like you said, from a historical perspective, just going off of just going off of my head, the top of my head, and I think about consequential elections. It's I think of 1796. I think of like 1828. I think of 1856 and
I forgot. You're probably the
1860.
person to ask.
Yeah,
What is the most consequential
As a
election?
amateur historian, yes, I was
The
going to say,
amateur
Denise,
historian.
yeah.
1860 is the one that jumps out to me. Um,
1856.
1860 and probably 1960. Like those two dates
Well,
kind
and
of.
I would also throw in 1868 and 1876 as well. Um, and then of course, 1932 because of the depression and
Oh
everything
yeah,
else.
no,
So
you are. That's a good call.
yeah. So, when you look back on it, I mean, history is that's the thing about history. It's retroactive. You can literally look back on it and notice what was historical when you can look back. When you're in the and you're in the thick of it like we are right now, everything feels historical in nature. And yes, there is a historical part of this in her being, the potentially being the first black Asian woman and woman president, period. But that's not what we're really
I was going to say, like,
focusing on.
that's not even really,
Yes.
in my
It's
opinion, that's not really relevant anymore.
to
Now,
agreed.
and
Agreed.
not from a historical perspective, but just in the sense of there are people in this country that would vote for a boiling pot of hot dog water before they ever voted for Trump. So it just couldn't be Joe Biden because
Or
no one
Harris,
would
for
want,
that matter.
yeah,
Or
yeah,
Harris, for
because
that
like
matter.
no, fine. There are going to be some people that feel that way about Harris too. It's a good point, but I think collectively America said basically what it feels like America has basically said is there's 45% of the population that's going to vote for Trump no matter what. Anybody else who's not interested in voting for him, they basically said without saying, if you give us a warm body, if you give us anybody other than Joe Biden, you got our vote. And he decided to step aside, I think probably because Pelosi shoved him out the door. And they had to show him some internal data to be like, you're not going to win this. And
But
then they
let's
picked
be real.
her.
Pelosi needs to go herself.
She's got real Wizard of Oz vibes, sort of pulling strings behind the curtain and all that. She's got those vibes, but I guess for me, I guess just at the end of the day, based on what I saw, the smarter, more competent person is Harris. It isn't really debatable. Before you get into policy and any of that, and I will just say my number one issue in terms of what's going to be a tipping point for me when I go to vote is not policy. It's not left wing, right wing. It's not conservative, liberal, progressive, you know, elephants and donkeys. It's not about any of that.
Can I
My
just interject for just a second here?
Okay.
Um,
Wow,
your mother,
mid
your
thought. Okay.
Wow.
your mother just walked in here and showed me a tweet of the one of the highlights from Trump's press conference today out in California,
Okay.
and I'm going
Lot
to read.
Carmen.
I'm going to read this verbatim to you
Okay.
guys. And as somebody, as a former Californian, this is insulting. There is a giant faucet in Northern California, which is off. So all the water goes into the Pacific Ocean, and you only get 38 gallons of water. When Trump becomes president, and then this is outside of the quote now. When Trump becomes president, he will turn the faucet on and the farms will be green again. And then he ended with vote for me, California.
I'm sorry.
Thank,
I'm sorry. You
thank
can't
you, mother.
fix that. You just can't fix stupid. I'm sorry. Like you can believe whatever you want to believe, but just because you believe it doesn't make it true.
That
Turn
is true.
on the faucets. We got fresh water flowing in the ocean.
In this very same press conference, he also stated that not many states get to see the Pacific Ocean.
No, he did. Yeah, didn't he say something to the effect of like the Pacific Ocean is stretched out amongst multiple states or like
Yes,
or
yes,
something
but
like that. I was like, well, I mean,
it,
technically
but it,
more. I mean, technically he's not wrong. It's three states,
there's three,
but let's
there's
not
three
act like
states
there's like 20.
exactly,
It's not the
and
Atlantic Ocean.
that's my point. And he also, while speaking in California today, also talked about Colorado and how Colorado needs to vote for him, forgetting that he was in California. So that's another point, Mark, to your point, Dennis. That he is now the old man here because he doesn't even know where he is
And again,
Mm.
for
when he
me,
references things.
what kind of crystallized it for me because like we've all been around people that are older than us. That's been our entire lives. We've all been around people that at one point or another that they were around Trump's age that still had all their faculty, that they were sharp as a tack and you couldn't get nothing. Think of all the aunts and uncles we've had over the years or older cousins. Every time you saw them, it was love and they were sharp as a tack, always had something smart to say. I mean, Papa had nicknames for every one of his grandkids and their kids. Like, and he was 98 when he passed away. Like,
Sweet man.
don't want to dig a hole and be like and pigeonhole all old people and say old people have lost their fastball. But much like an athlete, Father Time comes for all of us, and it's just clear this man doesn't have his fastball. But now we've got a whole cult of people. I don't want to say cult of people, but we got a whole lot of people that support this man, sort of full throated. This is my guy, no matter what. Believing that he can turn off and on faucets to fresh water so it doesn't go into the ocean.
And
That's you
let's
can't
just be
fix that. And that level of cognitive dissonance, that idea that I know what I'm saying is wrong, but in my heart, I just have to go with it. Like, that is the kind of thing I can't get behind. You know it's wrong and you cut off your nose to spite your face, that's where I just got to throw my hands up and say, hey, man, best of
and
luck to do it. If 2 plus 2 is 17, cool, brother. You can have it. I
and
can't.
it also goes to the logical sense of it. Turning on faucets to go into the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean is completely is a saltwater body of water.
For those that don't
Uh,
know,
for those out there who do not know.
I
So
mean, at this point, it might as well just be bathwater if there's a faucet. I mean, so
the amount of we have to even if we were taking water out of the Pacific Ocean, let's just entertain it for just a minute, just a second. We would
no,
have
no. See, that's why your head hurts all the time because you have to think a moment and you have to help these people see the logic that they don't want to see.
I
Stop
mean
burning calorie that way. Stop burning calorie.
I do, I just the amount of salt that you would have to filter out of it
All right,
would cost cost more money for
let's
California
just
than
stop
what it's
there.
worth.
Because I feel like we got to talk about it because it's close to home, literally. Um, Brian, what was your whole thought about this whole dogs and cats fiasco? Um, and then for those that don't know, so let me level set. There was
Why? First of all,
when
why would
during
you
the
not
debate,
know?
Trump said, hold on, during the debate, Trump said that in Springfield, Ohio, Haitian immigrants, who he says are here illegally, but the overwhelming majority of them are here legally on a work permit. He's saying that these people are going and they are stealing house cats and house dogs like pets, and they're eating them. And this has been debunked like a million times over, but it started as, a rumor, in the recesses of the internet that he now brought to the forefront. So, and it's been debunked. It's not true. They fact checked him in real time. So I guess, Brian, it's a two-part question. One, your initial thought when you first heard it, whether you heard it on the debate or not. And secondly, do you think in a real world sense that rumor has now put the community and specifically those Haitian immigrants in danger?
Again, I was made aware of this on Tuesday. I did not realize that was a thing. And then I was like, okay, well, that seems like if that was true, that'd be a bigger deal, right? Um,
Yeah.
so immediately my first thought was like that either he heard it wrong or he's completely wrong. It's one of the two. And as time has gone on, it sounds like he's just completely wrong, right? Um, I don't see how you can go to a presidential debate and say that on TV, this is almost 70 million people watching, and not know
Right.
that to be true. Like that just seems like that's one you might want to. If you want to lie about policy, the minutia of policies, like nobody's. I mean, sure, but you know, people are eating dogs and cats. Come on, bro. Like, come on, what are we doing? So then there's that. But the bigger picture, which is concerning to me, is that you're putting people's safety in jeopardy, whether it be the parents or the children, right? But also, to me, the bigger picture is you're putting this whole community at risk economically, right? Springfield, based on what I've heard, is a town where a lot of those jobs left in terms of manufacturing, and the influx of legal immigrants have helped uh, that community in terms of jobs and the economy and things like that. So
It's people that pay
these
taxes.
are people who are paying taxes
If,
and all
they
these
want to
things.
start business. This is
So
like everything you would want in my mind if I am like an old school. If I
if
was
you
an
were
old school
if you
right
felt that
here
devoutly
Republican,
if you felt that devoutly about um you know what quote unquote immigrants or others should be doing, they're doing that, right? So why are we messing with that? So then there's that. But so there's the safety part, but then there's also the economic part, and the economic part is the part I think that bothers me the most because we're truly in it, if we're truly in the game for the betterment of people, uplift, to make communities stronger, to be positive examples to whether it be your kids, your neighbors, or whatever the case may be. What are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are you doing?
so
Right?
let me say it a different way. Did did the comment come off to you? Did the comment come off to you racist in any way?
Inherently.
I don't know that I felt like it was. I think there are many roads to Rome, right? And so if I don't think he took the main drag, I think he may have taken the side street, or he may have. I don't think he came out directly and said it outright, but I do think that he did. It's
It was a bit of a dog whistle, is
I
what
think it
you're
was
saying.
more of a dog whistle. I think maybe I'll say that, or as the person on Twitter, wolf wolf, right? When they bark.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I think that's really more so what it was, but I think he did that. Here's my 2016. I think you can get away with that. 2024. I hope people are smarter than that. I think you can get away with that in the beginning because people are know it's something new. Maybe people don't know. And I also think sometimes he hits these undertones of things that people kind of already think anyway, and he just makes it bigger. Um, but I think, or my hope is that certainly people are able to see through that. And I think there's a whole nother level too about humanity, just in general, right? Your fellow neighbor, right? Not everybody, we look differently than others out here, right? There's a whole lot of diversity, whether it's race, it's who you love, it's religion, it's a whole lot of things, right?
It's a
Um,
spectrum.
but generally speaking, the crux of religion is to treat people equally and treat them equitably, right? And the ability to look at somebody different, but like, you know what? I'm gonna do right by this person. They're going to do right by me. So, and I'm not saying that people are not practicing their faith, but any faith that I've ever heard of is one that you embrace those people, right?
Provided
And
that the people practicing that faith don't take an extreme position.
true, and true, and also, obviously, there's a level to this that I don't want to be co-opted. If you're, I don't want to say following the rules, right? But if you're working hard every day, you're doing what you can, you're supporting your family, you're doing all these things. I don't know why our hands aren't out, you know, you know, trying to embrace these folks.
Okay.
Um,
So
good.
as I said, so Denise, same question to you. Your initial thought around this whole dogs and cats thing, and then whether or not, you thought it was racist, did it have some sort of tangible real world impact, both positive or negative? Like your thoughts about the whole, because I just feel like, because first of all, that's like 45 minutes up the road. So we've driven through Springfield more times than we can count.
Several
But,
times, several
it is
times.
a real place to all of us. So, and we
I
have
went to school out there.
formed from there.
Yeah, like I went to
So
school out there.
I'm
So
curious, like Denise, did you like your initial thought about it, and did it have any sort of tangible real world impact in your opinion?
well, my initial reaction took me back to the JD Vance and the childless cat ladies. When he said it. That was the first
People
thing
have
that
a
took
weird fixation with animals now, don't they?
they do. And so then immediately, because when I was watching it, as you guys both know, I have two dogs. And one of my dogs was laying on the bed, and Ed doesn't really pay attention to a lot of things on television, but his ears did perk up. Sometimes you hear things and you just hear it. Um, I thought it was the most random thing to say. It was completely off the rails. And as somebody who went to school in Dayton, outside of Springfield, Fairborn, Ohio, whoop, whoop, right state, it's not like that at all. And
Oh, that's right. You did go to school out there, so yeah,
I sure
you
did.
you got a good sense of
I
this.
know that. Yeah, I know. I have that. I know that area.
That just dawned on me. Like, yeah, you did 75,
So
70 to 675. Yeah, yeah, you know
yeah, so
about
I
this.
know the
Yeah,
area. I know the area. So
spun the block
it's
on time or two. Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
So it's just like, like, well, wait a minute. I spent a good 4 years out there, and it's not like that at all. One and
That you
two.
know of.
I'm sorry. Yes, correct. You were correct, as I know of. But to answer your second question, did I think it was racist? I thought it was inherently racist. Um, I don't need I don't need a map to get to the conclusion that this was racist. Um, we know how he is. We
Felt
know
it
that
was.
he is.
Hold on. To be clear, you felt it was that obvious how overtly
Yes,
racist it was. Okay.
yes, I felt that it was a bit
And not to
overtly
not to
racist.
cut you off, I think one of the hardest things that you to judge is someone's intent, right? So
But he's shown us his intent before.
true, but those are other circumstances, right? Like this is and this is where we differ, but I try to judge things on, I don't want to say on their own merit, but certainly in the moment. So some things can be comparable and some things can be similar, but also some things can be different, right? Um, so, but I hear what you're saying, that there is certainly enough of a track record for you to feel like, you know,
Okay.
that's not a big of a leap of
Yes,
faith. But
no, not at
but
all.
I would also argue that how many times have you heard somebody say something that maybe is not racist or but just they'll say something and you're just like, what did you mean by that?
But let me
Right?
hold on. But let me push back on that for a second. Do you feel like are you giving him too big a benefit of the doubt, given who we're talking about?
It's
Because
it
like
it's
like
like it's like Maya Angelou, when people, show them who
and the
you
reason
are.
why I say the reason why I say that is because I feel like if we're talking about a different type of Republican, a Romney, a McCain, a Bush, even John
They're not
Casey,
gonna say that.
I don't think they go 10,000 miles near it.
No, I don't
Because
think they do.
you know what I mean? And so it just feels like, and I'm not saying because I'm not in anybody's head, but it feels like people know exactly what not to say, so they don't get their ass whooped. But
And
they know
he's not doing that.
like people know how to walk right up to the line without crossing it,
Mhm.
and he felt like he went. I mean, to the razors. If I'm giving him the biggest benefit of the doubt that I can give him, he literally walked up to the razor's edge without me saying this is clearly. Even though I, it sounded like it sounded like a duck. It walked like a duck.
Mhm.
I mean, you know what I
Quack
mean?
quack.
I'm asking you, are you giving him too big of a benefit of the doubt here, given who he is? If it was anybody else, maybe. But I'm curious if you think you're giving him too big of a benefit of the doubt.
I don't know that I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt so much as generally speaking, I probably give people the room to clarify. So I
That's
don't,
I
your
prefer
nature.
hang themselves.
but
I
that's just
prefer
my,
hang
that's just who
themselves.
I am. That's just my
That's your
nature.
nature.
That's just who I
Yes,
am.
that's you.
And again, I acknowledge, Denise, that certainly based on the body of work, I can see how you came to that conclusion. But for me, um, and I also, and you guys know this too, um, I think people tell on themselves all the time. And so to
Yes.
your point, Denise, you said it. So I presume to take you at your word that you truly believe that, but I hope you also know that you sound effing crazy. And as long as you are okay with sounding, ridiculously crazy, then
And the other thing too, and again with the historical context behind it, as soon as he said Haitians, my mind immediately was like, of all people that you want to go
Really
after
doesn't know
Haitians?
history of Haitian people.
No, being the
And he
first black
certainly doesn't
country
understand the impact of Haitian people and on our country, but specifically New Orleans and that Creole Caribbean culture.
that
Like he has no idea
it's
because
not
it's
even that. It's not even that. They're the first black nation to overthrow white power. Period.
oh, well, I
right,
would defer to you guys on that. I
So
have no idea,
so
but
my thing is
right.
like there is a certain amount and
So
all
Tubbs,
time like there's so much behind the Haitian
so Tubbs,
people
just a little background on Haiti. Like to Denise's point, when Haiti, the native Haitians, overthrew the French and kicked them out
to Saint
back
Overture
back in the 1800s,
General.
early 1800s, pre-Civil War. It scared people in America so much that New Orleans cracked down on everybody that looked like us to make
oh,
it very clear that what happened in Haiti will never happen here.
And the entire reason why Haiti is in the situation it is in now is because of the fact that they overthrew the French. And ever since then, anybody in Europe would not lend money to them. The United
That's
States would not loan money to them, at least through the midpoint of the 20th century, because somebody feels bad about it. Like, oh,
right.
they can't seem to get over it.
And
well,
so
200 years
that's an
later, and you're
interesting
still dealing with them.
juxtaposition because now if you go back and tell those people, hey, congratulations, great, but then also you're going to cripple this country for centuries to come. I don't know if that changes their math, but that would be an interesting conversation to
right.
have.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
you get your independence, but you also are crippling
Well,
your country.
But that's a different conversation.
I know,
and a
I know,
different,
I know. It would be interesting. I just think
Yeah,
it would be interesting to have that
but
conversation.
while they overthrew them, they now had no leverage. But that's another conversation for me.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I think the other thing that I think is important to sort of talk about is in the subsequent days since. So today's Friday. Trump had a press conference today, and he's talking about he's going to deport 20 million people from from the um from the country,
No, from
and
Springfield.
you don't know he's going to start in Springfield and Aurora, and
Okay.
then he's going to 2 million people or 20 million people. And for me personally, yes, that feels inherently racist on a whole lot of levels. But
It's real Hitler-esque.
rounding people up and kicking people out of a country, I'm not going to fight you on that comment, even though I think people use the Hitler thing too much.
I agree.
But
There are other comparisons, but
yeah,
yes.
yeah. But I guess for me, there's been no real discussion, in my opinion, around, and this is where I blame the media for this. Let's walk this dog for a second. Let's say Trump becomes president and he deports 20 million people. I need someone to give me a real sort of analysis on the negative impact that's going to have on the economy.
Yeah.
Because I just don't feel like you can take that position on immigration and then be pro business. Because if we're being honest, all these jobs that these people are filling are all jobs that are open for a reason, for a
Yes.
variety of different reasons. But one of those reasons, not the only reason, but one of those reasons is these are by and large jobs that people don't want. And regardless of what you think about whether or not
That
socialism
Americans
is
look
right or
down on.
capitalism or communism or whatever, the hard reality of it all is that everybody's fighting to get here to America. Like if you were born in America as a citizen, that is a lot. That's a fucking lotto ticket. Right?
To an
Now,
extent,
what you
yes.
do with that lottery ticket is everything, but the idea that we would, like, for instance, if you like tomatoes on your burger when you go to McDonald's or Wendy's, and now nobody's here to pick tomatoes because you expelled them all, where are you going to get your tomatoes?
Or
I
are you
guess you
willing?
going on your
Are
own.
you willing to?
That's what
Or
I'm getting at. And
yeah.
I'm going to say this, Tubbs, and then I'm going to give it to you. I know this is a country where one religion is not supposed to trump the other, but this is by and large a Christian nation.
More
So
or less,
the
yes.
idea that you're going to call yourself Christian but not help your neighbor is massively disingenuous to me. And so for me personally, I just want you to pick a side. If you're going to be that hard on immigration, just tell me you don't believe in Jesus. And if you believe in Jesus, stop being so hard on immigration. I just want you to pick a side. It doesn't make a difference to me which one you believe in, but you can't have both thoughts in your head at the same time.
It's
That's
like
what
it's like the concept of being a
happens.
nationalist.
And it bothers the hell out of me. As a,
It's like it's the concept of being a Christian nationalist. It doesn't the two just don't make they
say that.
don't fit.
Don't say 10 words and 5 will do. Thank you. Tubbs, take it.
I'm not overly religious, but my understanding is you should. I think John Legend put something out there today. You know,
Springfield is its hometown.
Springfield's own. That my understanding is of the good book, if you will, is that
The good book.
I'm trying to figure out a way to articulate. Basically, you should treat people as if that is Jesus, right? So, from an immigration standpoint, if we're setting barbed wire on the whatever they're doing down there, um,
Building a wall and whatnot.
let's say one of those people crossing was Jesus,
And
or
you wouldn't know, right?
or
Because technically he's supposed to come back and walk the earth. Yeah, very good point.
or you get to the afterlife. Everybody's got a list of things they got to ask for.
Nobody's hands are clean.
You think he's cool with that? You think he's cool with you treating his kids like that? Because at that point, there really is no, oh well, let me run it back. No,
I got to be honest. I'm glad you said what you said because I've had a lot of thought about that in the sense of I do risk management for a living. I just feel like I've evolved to a place where I'm like, I would much rather, when my number's called, go before the Lord and say, to the best of my ability, I did not mistreat anybody. I tried to treat everybody equally in the same. And I know there are going to be examples in my past where I didn't do that, and I am legitimately repentant about that, and I'm sorry about that. But I am actively trying to be self-aware to be able to say I'm going to treat everybody with a measure of dignity and respect as a human being. Because when I cross over, I want to be able to look and say I I tried to the best of my ability to do that, even though
because selfishly you want to cross over.
I don't know anybody that doesn't. You
Well,
know,
it was
no one wants.
the Andre 3000 line. Everybody want to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die, right?
That's right.
So
You took it from me, right?
I say all that to say that certainly to me, and I think people get their cues from someone, right? So that's another thing that I think is problematic is that in some ways he being Trump is saying that this is okay, and people are taking their cues from that, and so I don't know if that sets a necessarily a good example. But one thing I will tell you, and this is maybe I told you that this is out of all the things, um, and it really showcased itself to me on Tuesday. But the biggest thing I think that bothers me about Trump, and there's some things that bother me about Kamala too. So, equal opportunity
Fair
hater
enough.
here. Um, but the thing that bothers me about Trump is that there is no there's no not so much accountability, but there is no sense of awareness. There is no humbleness. There is not because we've all lived lives. The three of us, you the listener, or viewer, you have things that you've done in
Both.
your lifetime where you can look back and like, yeah, I messed that up, or I went left, I should have went right, or yeah, I got to own that, I was really out of pocket, whatever the case may
There's
be,
always
right?
humility.
There's no humility there, and that bothers me. Um,
Let me say
because
it a different way. Not to cut you off, but let me say it a different way. Do you trust anybody who can't admit that they were never wrong?
No.
because to be human is to err, right? And so the only person that I have ever heard of that walked this earth that was perfect was probably what Jesus. And I would imagine certainly, people who are deeper in the Bible can tell you that he probably erred too. So, um,
Be careful with that. There are people that'll fight you on that.
Yeah, that's
listen, I mean,
This
there
is
are people
God
want to
in
fight
human
me.
form. But I get what you're saying. I
Yeah,
understand.
you know what I mean.
Like,
You know what I mean.
because
So, I mean, there.
but you bring up an interesting conundrum. If he's human, then he erred.
In the air.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If he's human, then he erred. Like, because you can't be human without, you know what I mean? But we'll table that for another conversation. Because yeah,
So,
I get that.
so the fact that there is no humility there is bothersome to me, and the fact that you cannot own any missteps or any misgivings, um, that just is bothersome to me.
Okay.
And I imagine that Harris has probably fouled things up and probably messed things up. I feel like
Absolutely.
there's a little bit more of a level of humility there than
So you can relate to Harris more because you feel like you can relate to her more because she has failed at certain things, and perhaps I don't know, but perhaps she's apologized for those things and changed positions. Because I think one of the ways to really measure intelligence is your ability to take in new information and then change your mind based on that new information. Like, that's a way to measure
I think
intelligence, right?
Churchill has a quote something similar to that, but yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like you're just not so rigid in your thinking that, and I think sometimes as we get older, and this is a natural thing, so I don't want to pick on baby boomers by any sense, but
Yeah,
I
you
just
do.
think sometimes you get in your sort of, you know what you know, and you're comfortable with what you know. When as things change, if it doesn't jive with what you know, you naturally sort of fight against it, which is a human thing.
Hmm.
But if you stay where you're not, if you stay in that space, you're never progressing. And I just always believe that if you're not, if you, even if you're standing still, you're falling behind because technology, society, everything keeps moving forward. We never go backwards. We're always going forward. So the
Yeah.
moment you decide, I don't want to, like keep up with all this anymore. That's totally your right, but you have to accept the fact that um you're going to be falling behind. Like Shannon Sharp said something last night on Nightcap because he had to go on there and kind of explain the whole like
Dropping
the
the phone. I
yeah
mean, going live.
the whole clip thing where he was like sort of, sleeping with an
Yeah.
old girl, like the audio came out, right? He said something that was I thought was pretty profound and really self-aware on his part, which is to say, you get to choose your actions. No one's ever going to stop you from choosing your actions, but you don't get to choose your consequences.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Right? And I think that's kind of the spirit of what you're getting at is you can choose your actions, but you don't get to choose your consequences.
Well, and for the record, I don't know. I presume there's probably things that she has messed up on that she probably has admitted or has not admitted. I don't know. But she gives me the sense of somebody who could own it as opposed to, um, like it just, it's,
Well, not only
he would
just
have won
own it.
California in 2020 if Jesus appeared or whatever it was. Or, the E. Jean Carroll thing, he didn't do anything wrong. Or the, Stormy Daniels thing, he didn't do anything wrong, or trying to find votes, he didn't do anything wrong, or like it's like at certain point, like it can't be everybody else. At a certain
Don't
point,
forget
like
the Central
you
Park
have
Five
to be
thing.
able to own some of this, and his inability to own things is bothersome to me
So
as an
long as it's
independent
not,
person.
so long as it, because he'll own anything that's to his benefit.
He'll own
Like,
anything that is to his
like there's a
benefit, but
track record of it.
anything to his detriment, he will not
Right.
own. And
Yeah.
and even not even something in real time. You could, when Kamala brought up the fact that he didn't rent to people of color, right, 50 years ago or
Yeah.
whatever it was, like you could have at that point like, yeah, you know what, I was on some bullshit, and I realized I was wrong. That's an
He
easy
could have
one.
blamed his dad. He could have
He
said
could have
that was
blamed
my
his dad. The
fault
Central
and
Park
me.
Five
Like,
thing. You know what? Yeah, you know what? I thought they were guilty, but kind of find out they were innocent. Yeah, I got that one wrong. Right? Like these are layups, and the
yeah,
inability to just
I never
say,
thought about it as layup, but
but
yeah,
but
just
but
own
but
it and move on.
but
Yeah.
generally speaking, our human nature, and I think also us as Americans, we are a forgiving people. You got to own it, but if you own it and you come right, then we can work on it, right? Like Alex Rodriguez is out here doing baseball 7 nights a week. That man did steroids up and down, left and right for years, right? And he's out there doing all this. Why? Because he came out and he's like, yeah, you know what? I did it. I put a lot of pressure, so that's why I did it. Da, da, da. And people are like, oh, okay, well, that's messed up. But
So it's funny you said A-Rod because the name that came to my mind was Mike Vick. That people
that's
were
another one.
outraged with Vic and those dogs.
Yep.
But once Vic came back, and Vic is since then, he served his time. He's been an advocate for animals, the whole nine, blah, blah, blah. And now people look at Vic and were like, yeah, what he did was wrong, but he paid for that. You know what I mean, repented in the Christian motif. Like he repented for that. He's changed his ways. To some extent, you could make that argument about someone like Ray Rice. Like he had
Yeah.
to own it because the video came out, he was left with no choice but to own it. And then him and his wife worked it out, and then they moved forward with it. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
they're like to your point, America loves a comeback story, but you gotta own it first,
But you
and you
gotta
gotta
own it. You gotta own it.
own it. That's a fair call out. It's
Well, I
fair.
will also say too, I doubt that you guys watch the show Mindhunter on Netflix or not. But they talk about the psychology and the psychopathy of people who end up becoming killers. And they found that sometimes the same qualities in a serial killer is also some of the same qualities in being president of the United States, because you have to have a certain kind of drive in order to get there, a certain kind of
That's disturbing.
tactical advantage.
That's
And it is
disturbing.
it is a
Saying Joe
disturbing thought.
Biden's
And
a
when I
serial
first
killer?
saw it, huh? But
Right.
when you but when you watch the
George
show,
H.W. Bush is a serial killer.
yeah. But when you watch the show and they list out the qualities that were not even qualities, but the
I
things
got
that enable,
I
they
got
they
you. That's
kind they
wild.
line up.
That's
They
wild.
line up.
Like
So when
I
you look
can't even
at
hold you. That's wild.
Yeah, but when you look at it, at knowing that information, and then you look at somebody like Donald Trump,
Yeah.
and when I look at him, knowing the context of Mindhunter, the first person that comes to mind to me is Ted Bundy, and it's just like he
That's
doesn't
an
own, like
interesting
you
leap.
said, Brian. He doesn't own what he did wrong. He doesn't acknowledge that there's anything wrong at all. He takes advantage of those less fortunate and exploits it. And when you think about it, like you said, Brian, and unless you, that's what makes us human is to be able to recognize our
Yeah.
faults and recognize that we have made an error in some way, shape, or form. And that's one of the reasons why I could never get behind Trump because that's not
Well, so
that's not something I could do.
okay, so that's you bring a good point. So I'm gonna ask you both this question. So do you feel the humility that you both have kind of described here? Do you feel like that humility is something that is prevalent with Kamala and not prevalent with Trump? Like, is that kind of how you're feeling? Like it exists on some baseline level with her,
No,
and it
I think
on
well,
his end is that I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'm asking a question because I don't know.
I think we can look at this a lot of ways, right? I think one of the reasons I'm independent is because I think that we can get caught up, or people get caught up in you know, the red team versus the blue team. So whoever's on my team is right. And I
The
try to look,
dogma.
yeah, the
Yeah.
dogma of it, maybe. Thank you. But I think that we should be really treating these things like job interviews, right? You have two candidates, you're
Mhm.
looking at their resumes, you're hearing what they're saying, you're giving them, think about any job interview you've been in. They're usually giving you some sort of situational question. Tell me about a time when da 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 da. So instead of that, it's just like, okay, we're going to talk about abortion. We're going to talk about immigration. We're going to talk about the economy or whatever. Insert subject matter here, right? So we're
Right.
evaluating these people based on what they've done, past is prologue, as Kamala likes to say. But
Right.
it's true. Like, so you're looking at what they've done, and then you're looking, and then you, based on their answers, you're projecting to think about what they're going to do. Um, so I think that we need to do a better job of looking at these things on an individual level. But to your point, I think the problem with the humility thing, at least in my diagnosis, is that I don't know that if it's just a Trump thing. I think it might be a party thing, right? Because
The
once
party as it
he
stands now.
is the party as it stands now, because
Yeah.
the Republican Party that we grew up with, you know,
It's gone.
it's
Like
It's been
that.
gone.
gone.
And Denise, I was telling you, I like Republican Classic. So I like
I'm a John
HWA,
McCain person.
yeah, John McCain, or we're in Ohio, right? So who doesn't love George Voinovich, right? Or
Listen,
like Mike
John
DeWine,
Case.
John Case, like those guys. You know why? But those guys and gals, I imagine there's some girls in there as well.
I call
Uh,
those sensible
yeah.
Republicans.
So, but the thing about them is that they are people who have a sense of humility, and they can meet you in the middle. You might not agree with every policy that they have, but they can work with you and they can meet you in the middle. I don't get that vibe from the current Republicans. Like if we literally need to come up with a solution on something, it's going to be my way or it can't be done. And to their, not to make to their credit, but to also be fair, I think there are some levels of Democrats who are the same way, that no, it has
Mhm.
to be this way. Um and I feel like 80% of the country is probably somewhere in the middle. It's just the two extremes, but the two extremes are the loudest. But again, my central point being that I feel like it may be, I don't know if it's a symptom or a cause in terms of Trump, in terms of the sense of humility, but I feel like people, generally speaking, want people who are going to meet them in the middle, meet them where they are, if you will. Think
Yeah.
about you guys, you talked about work, Dennis, like, when you think about where you work, the majority of these people, the majority of people in this country probably work with, there's a devout Christian who works with an atheist. There is somebody who can't stand LGBTQ next to somebody who's maybe transgender, right? There may be somebody who doesn't believe in interracial marriage next to somebody who's, married to somebody opposite their race. Like, but we all find a way to do our job. and we all find a way to keep everything pushing, right? So I think in some ways, I'm not naive, but I feel like in some ways, in some instances, um, that's what people want. That's what people are looking for. And if that's what people want and that's the appetite, what they need or what they want, I feel like you probably get more of that with Harris than you do with Trump.
Okay.
Um, but I feel like it just, again, I feel like the Republican Party is not where it used to be. So I don't know if I don't know if Trump is the symptom or if he's the cause.
Denise, I want to ask you the same question, but Brian, you hit on something that Denise reminds me of a few months ago when we went together and I helped you get your car, and the finance lady volunteered on her own.
That you was a Trump supporter.
She was for Trump, but what she said was so insightful. And what she said was, I'm going to vote for him because I think he's going to lower interest rates and he's better for the economy, but I just need him to shut up about everything else. It was so telling because I remember kind of kicking you under the chair, like, just let her talk because we might be able to get you a better interest rate. And sure enough, we did. But
But but I think
at that point, it was like, I just need you to feel comfortable so you'll give us a better interest rate. But that's neither here nor there. But I guess same question to you, like, do you feel like you get that with one side versus the other? Do you feel that way?
I do feel that the other side seems to be how I always felt this way about Democrats and Republicans, but Democrats are the dreamers
Yes.
and they are the hopes and dream, like, the hopes and dreams, um and in that hope and dream, the problem with in that hopes and those dreams is that sometimes getting to that dream, n- you have to defer a few things. And there are some folks in on the left that are just so adamant about that dream that they forsake everything else. Whereas the Republicans, or at least Republican classic,
Republican
um,
classic.
yes, Republican classic, like you said earlier, are willing to at least meet you in the middle. That's where your Goldwaters come in, your McCains, your HWs,
Yeah.
There's a
and
practicality.
Hold on,
There's
hold
a
on.
you
practicality
know,
there that we
Hold on.
appreciate. And
That's don't say gold. Just
no,
say don't say gold.
you're
Don't
talking
say
to
that.
two
fine.
former Arizonans here, so you're going to
Yeah,
have to
so I
accept
mean,
that.
come on.
Hold on.
Yeah, I
But you can't
mean,
hold on. But let's educate the people. You can't say that about Goldwater, who was against the Civil Rights Bill and the Voting Rights Act.
this
Like
is
that.
true.
You can't say that. You
But
can't
at the
say
same time,
But argument
Goldwater
though
is
is that was he just not to cut you off, Denise, but my argument to that would be, and obviously we don't know this, did he truly feel that way, or was that just what the party felt?
also,
It's
I
good.
would say,
Honestly, that's a question Denise has to answer because she's the historian.
And I mean, he might have been that just might have been of the time, right? So,
I
like the
also
argument
would
about like
say,
slavery, right? Where
Fine,
people,
but also one of the things as an independent voter that I do not like as an independent voter is there are people in this country that are playing politics with other people's lives.
oh, of course,
that agreed.
that's
Yes.
been since
That's
the
the
inception of this country.
listen, and don't get me wrong, all politics is messing with people's lives. I'm not naive.
Yes, to a degree, yes.
Right, right. But it just seems like we've evolved to a place where folks on the right are dismissing another person's humanity so long as they get what they want. Now, to be if I was going to be fair and balanced, do Democrats take it too far, or not even Democrats, progressives and liberals take it too far? At times, I think they do.
I would
Okay.
agree.
But
I would agree.
but sitting in the middle as a centrist, I don't think. I think however far they take it is nothing in comparison to what the other side takes it. The idea that you can't acknowledge someone's humility, and this has been my argument or my issue with people who are devoutly religious, who
Hmm.
say in one hand I'm devoutly religious and I believe in this religion X, Y, and Z, to my core or my soul or whatever, but then you can dismiss another person's humanity. That's where you lose me with that. And I just feel like, regardless of who you are, where you come from, you're owed a measure of dignity and respect so long as the person that you give that dignity and respect to is not massively disrespectful to you. Because
Well,
if you try to
mm,
give someone grace and that person doesn't give you grace back, hey, however you choose to handle that is on. Like I ain't got no dog in that fight. But if
well,
I come to
it's
you legitimately with a measure of humility and grace, and you can't meet me in that place, I think that says volumes about who you are as a person,
well, I
regardless
also think,
of your upbringing or belief.
and I'll say this because being the only woman present, and I guess I'll say it, even yes, we're three independents, but um I plan to vote for Kamala. I don't plan to vote for Trump. I just can't in good conscience put that guy back in there. But I also think too that now that we have the issues of women's issues here in the front, um, I don't plan to have any children. It's not on my radar. I'm happily I'm happy to be a dog mom, totally cool with it. But in the event that I wanted to have a child, I do not want to have to worry about if I can or cannot.
That's what you know. What that's a wild statement to say out loud, but I think you're speaking for a lot of people because you are you are a childless dog lady, according to certain people.
I am a childless dog lady
But you
wearing my
should have
Chihuahua shirt.
your value as a person isn't measured in whether or not you produce a child. And
No,
that is a narrow way to view a person's humanity.
Hmm.
and the way I look, and I've been in situations where I've had friends even in college who have popped up pregnant and have um sat there in groups, like a group of friends, and I've had every single one of them tell this girl, "You need to abort. You can't be a mother
Right.
right now. This is that, whatever." And then she turns to me and says, "Well, what do you think?" And my response is the same stance I have on abortion today. I myself, if I popped up pregnant, I would keep the child. I believe a child is a blessing no matter how it is conceived.
Right.
God created the child. I'm just here to carry it. Fine.
Right.
I said, but I said, if you don't feel that you can do this, or you feel that the burden will be too high, it is not for me to tell you what you should do with your own body. That
Because you're
needs to
not saying
be,
wait.
yeah,
Yes.
you're the one carrying that weight. And it was because of what I said to that person that she chose to keep the child. And now
That's
that
all.
child is a junior, that child's a junior in high school. So the
That's
thing is,
all.
it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, it kind of reminds me going back to even now with women's issues being what they are, there are people on the right now who are saying that they should rescind the right to vote for women to vote, period. So now you want to take away my ability to have a child or choose to not have a child. And now you're talking about taking my
I
right
remember
to vote away.
Jason Whitlock had said something about we were a stronger country when you only had one vote per household because the man voted for the household and not, and it was just like,
I'm glad I wasn't around for
oh
that because I punch him in the
man, that
face for
is
that. I punch him in the face for
wow,
that.
that's an opinion, brother.
I've,
That is an opinion.
I've never liked him, and in any measure of respect I've had for him has gone down off a cliff. I didn't know he said that, but if you know who he is and you know how he operates, it's not
He's a
shocking.
conspiracy dude.
No,
Yeah.
it's not.
So
Um,
It's not.
so let me ask you guys this, because I'm we're gonna turn third and head we're gonna head. So Denise, you've already made it clear you're leaning Kamala, like barring like something unforeseen, that's gonna get your vote. I
Yeah,
guess
yeah.
so.
And I like Tim Walz. I mean, he's a middle
oh,
class
protect that
guy.
man. Protect that man.
Wait, look, he's a middle class guy just like
We
I am.
listen. We have all worked with or been around or are friends with people who are just like Tim Walz, and regardless forget the fact that he's a white man. He's just genuinely a good person. And
Yes.
we need more good people in this world.
Yes.
Agreed.
So that alone, and on top of that, for myself, I voted for Kamala when she ran for the Senate when I lived in California. So I was already on the Kamala tip
Yeah.
way before everybody else. So I knew what she was about. So when
Right.
she jumped in, it was like, okay, all right, you know what? I already know her record. I
So
know what
then,
she's
so I
about.
guess the question
Boom.
is for you. I'm not going to ask you who you're going to vote for. I think that's unfair, and I think that's a very personal thing because you could say something today, and then 2 weeks from now, something happens and it changes, and all of a sudden now people think you're locked into what you said 2 weeks before you got new information. I don't.
Yeah, that's right. Because you're going to end up with Cornell West. That's what you're going to end
Yeah.
up.
Oh,
So
is he
my
still in
question,
it?
Yes,
he's
he's
on the
still in
ballot
it.
now, on the ballot somewhere. So my question to
Oh,
you is,
before you do that, real quick. I saw that Jill Stein was asked how many members are in Congress, and she said like 600, and House Representatives, she said 600. I feel like if you can't answer that, you're disqualified. Doesn't matter what
by the
party
way,
you're
No,
running
not
for,
even that.
Democrat,
Not
Jill
Republican,
even
Stein
that.
Independent.
also
Like,
has never like been city council or she's never done
Not even
anything in her
that.
life but run
Forget
600.
for
all of
president.
that.
Mm-mm.
Forget all of that. The fact that she told Angela Rye to her face that she is using racism, specifically black racism, as parroting to change voters' minds. So you're going to tell a black woman who's been through it, who is black, who has been a subject of racism, you're going to tell her to her face, that you're just race baiting. Get out of my face, Jill Stein.
I got to
Out
be
the
honest with
door.
you. I feel like not
Go.
knowing how many members are in the House of Representatives
I
is a
feel
bigger
like
crime.
fine
That's a
That
bigger.
also.
That is
because clearly you can't count votes. But
that is because the other thing is just conjecture. Like you can have an opinion one way or the other. Maybe she's right, maybe she's wrong. But the one thing that you definitively cannot get wrong as the leader of this country and the world is how many members are in the House of Representatives. If you that is they teach you that in what, sixth grade or whatever. Like that's basic civics. So
hey,
to
hold on, and just so we're clear for people that are watching or listening, it's 435. That's the math.
Yes.
435
435,
representatives are split
435,
across.
535 total if you count if you add the 435 of the House plus the 100 of the
The
Senate,
100 in the
you have a
Senate.
500 you have 535 total members of
If you're
Congress.
running
But
for president, you should probably know
you
that.
don't know that
You know
you
what?
need not
Let
apply.
that be the next. Let that be
Hold
the
on.
next episode.
Jill Stein. Jill Stein. Legitimate question. Are you smarter than an eighth grader?
Like it's
That's
a
what that is.
but anyway, I sorry, I
Considering
didn't
this
mean to
country,
derail it. Dennis, you said
let's
we're
just
on our
say,
So,
we're rounding third going home, so I didn't
yeah.
mean to derail.
So,
So go
my
ahead.
question was, knowing that Denise is a heavy lean Kamala, my question is, what are the factors that you are considering going into a voting booth, or if you vote earlier, if you do an absentee, whatever? When you sit down and you decide, okay, today's the day I'm going to vote, what are the two or three most important things you're going to be looking for out of the person that you think you might vote for? What are the things you need to see in order for them to earn your vote?
I would say for me, I would go back to my previous point of a job interview. I would want to, based on your past performance, so we have her as VP, her as Senator, her as AG. I'm not a state of California person, so Denise was, I guess I could ask her. But generally speaking, that body of work, what is the overall sense of that body of work versus the body of work of Trump, which would be president and then businessman and notice how I didn't say billionaire because there's some funny money there, allegedly. So, but his body of work versus her body of work. So I would say that would be the determining factor for me. And just the other part, I think we talked about it too, is just, do I feel like this person, I don't want to say is worthy of the office, but do I feel like this person, I don't want to say it's a
in a
gravitas
crisis,
spread.
can I depend on this person in a crisis?
I don't want to do the whole like it's 4 a.m. like who do you want answering the phone? Like I don't want to do that.
I
But
I
but
miss that. I miss those
yeah,
commercials.
but I do feel like those are the things I would probably that would sway me one way or the other.
Okay. Denise,
I will say,
what are your
I will
factors?
say
Like, what
this.
are things you're considering? Because you're leaning Kamala, so obviously Kamala's checking boxes for you. So I guess the question is different for you. What boxes is Kamala checking for you that lends you towards giving your vote?
I'll put it to you like this: how, and actually, our mother pointed this out the other day on Ari Melber. For those of that watch MSNBC, people talked about how her experience isn't like what Trump's is. So he actually did the homework. He did something that I would have done, which was he put up her track record. She has 34 years total experience in being a trial lawyer, a prosecutor, attorney general, a U.S. senator, vice president of the United States, all of that, 34 years worth of experience. And then he skips over Trump and like goes to somebody like John F. Kennedy, who has maybe 6 years worth of experience in the Senate before he becomes president.
Good
That's
point.
what I'm looking at. And when I look, it's like, to me, it's a no brainer. I
Yeah.
want somebody who has the experience, who has the composure, who also has a certain level of compassion for
Yeah.
others. And like we said earlier, a sense
Humility.
of empathy, humility and empathy.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah.
I do believe that when push comes to shove, if she needs to show out, she'll show out and she'll do what she has to do. That I have no doubt on, because we saw that within the debate with her face, with her facial expressions.
Right.
So that's what does it for me. That's coming, making me come around to Kamala more.
Okay. And the
Yeah.
reason why I asked the question is because I know what that factor is for me. And so the factor for me is, and this is how I'm judging all presidential races moving. Supreme Court says now that the president has immunity. Now, that there are certain presidential acts that do warrant being immune from criminal prosecution. So the number one thing I look at now, above policy, partisan politics, left, right, progressive, conservative, I don't care about any of that anymore. What I care about is your character and whether or not you have the character of a person that would not abuse the immunity that's now been given to you as president of the United States. And I have no idea if Kamala would abuse that. I want to be transparent. I have no idea if Kamala would abuse it, but I feel fairly confident that Trump, and less about Trump, but more the people around him that could influence him enough. Because again, the people on TV said it. Like, you know, and like not to be literal, but in our
Yeah.
family, we saying you never give anybody the bullets to shoot you with. And Trump is somebody that would
He is
accept
loading up.
all of those bullets because he thinks he can take it.
Yeah.
If I
Yeah,
don't think you have the character that would not abuse that privilege that has now been given to you, that is a hard sell for me. Like I have a difficult time getting there knowing the probability of him abusing that is high. I haven't made a final decision to be totally transparent, but I'm living in that space where this is the number one thing I'm weighing, and I have no idea if Kamala is trustworthy or not. But I almost feel inclined to say I'm willing to bet a significant amount of money that I do not have that that guy can't be trusted. And
not at all.
this is sort of the sort of balancing act that I think we're at. So I guess the last thing I'll ask you guys, and then we can wrap on this, is we are 50 some odd days out of it. What do you think? What do you guys anticipate seeing between now and election day? And and I know that's sort of a very broad question, right? I know it's a very broad question. So I'm curious what what do you guys think in the next 50 some odd days? Are we going to have an October surprise? is there something that might pop up that might tip you one way or the other? Like Denise, is there something that pops up that you say, wait a minute, I have to take a second look at Trump now? Like
No, 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 no.
that's what I'm at.
I've seen all I've seen. In fact, at this point, it's just a sinking ship to me. It's just, you know what? If he's gonna go gloves off, just let him shoot himself in the foot. Give him that AR-15 that he's not going to ban, and just let him just go to town.
Right.
So, I don't really. I mean, there's not much to sway me at this point.
I don't think there's going to be a whole lot, to be honest with you, unless there's another debate, which apparently, why does there need to be one? Because he mopped the floor with her. Um,
But
so unless there,
he counts the Biden one too. So
sure,
that's why there won't be another debate, because he
Yes,
counts the
I'm
Biden
glad you
one.
brought that up because I feel like the Biden debate, I didn't watch it, so I can't speak on something
I've
I
slipped
didn't.
in and out of it. I didn't watch it as much as I watched this one.
But I will say that my sense of the Biden debate is that even if you think Biden won, you didn't walk out of there with the impression that he won because that man's 81 years old. That man's lost his fastball. It's gone. And
Yeah.
if I'm picking between these two people, this guy clearly is not here with us. He's somewhere else.
Well,
I'm
I guess
Carl, man.
to your point, I don't want to say a double standard, but if you're going to apply that logic to Biden when he went up against Trump, I don't know how you can't apply that same logic
That's
when Trump
why
goes
Agreed.
against Harris,
I
right?
asked it
So
earlier
either,
because that's the conclusion I
because to
came to.
me, it's, I don't want to say it's one and the same, but I think if you're going to be fair, if if I don't know, I'm not going to overanalyze it, but if Trump ran off Biden and mopped the floor with him, then I don't know how you can't look at the one that we just watched and say that Harrison mopped the floor with him, and then therefore, if your conclusion was that Biden was too old and he can't do this, and then the same thing happened to Trump, I don't know how you don't have the same math, right?
Right.
Agreed.
So, but to answer your question, like I said, unless there's another debate, I don't think there's really, because they're just going to be crisscrossing the country campaigning. So there's nothing, they're not going to interact. They're not going to come across each other. They're not going to be in the same
Well, they
room.
did interact. They did interact at the 9/11
Yeah,
memorial,
but
and
that's not going to move votes one way or the other. I don't think
no,
there's
but
anything.
I will
No,
point out
I don't
the
think there's
Biden
going to be
language.
anything of significance that's going to happen between now and election day unless they have another debate.
But I will say that, like, the night I only reason I bring up the 9/11 one is because the handshake that he gave to her. I don't know if you guys paid attention to that. He tried to pull her as he was shaking her hand, as if to kind of take over. And not only did she yank back, but she made him kind of step forward into her space. So he got owned twice in 2 days. Um,
I didn't analyze it like that. I just
oh
saw them
yeah,
shaking hands. I didn't.
well, because in between them was Joe Biden, and Joe Biden is giggling,
Hmm.
and it's just kind of like, you know,
I saw that, but honestly, I didn't read too much into that. Like, you don't know. Like, that's an awkward situation all the way around. It's a
Mhm.
9/11 memorial. Like,
and also he got
oh,
heckled at. Did you know that he got
hold on.
heckled at?
One last thing, and we're gonna wrap on this. I need your honest thoughts because we live in Ohio. I need your honest thoughts on JD Vance.
I would like to officially remove him from the millennial generation that I'm in. That man does not represent me. And he's trash.
Yeah.
He's straight trash.
You sound like the guy who always talks about the Cowboys. They're trash. They're trash. Um, um, I don't
How do
have an
you not
opinion
know
on
how
him
to
one way or
order
the
donuts?
other.
How do you not?
I got,
That's
How
fair.
do you not know how to order donuts?
that was weird. So, and he might just, if he's not a people person, then I don't know that politics is the space for you because certainly you have to deal with the public. So I don't know if that's just kind of his idiosyncrasies of how he is. But I don't know. I
That
mean,
video of
I
him
don't.
when he's like 12 years old
My
on Oprah is
my sense of him is And we've all known people like this in our lives. To me, he is somebody who says things he doesn't believe. Like, you keep talking about immigration and how challenging immigration is and how it's a detriment to our country, and you're married to an Indian woman.
Whose mother says will not be voting for you.
Like, I don't understand. Like again, it's a cognitive dissonance. Like, you're such a slave to chasing power that you forsake everything else. I just think it speaks to his character. And I would just say, personally, that man is not representative of the good people of Ohio.
Not at all.
Now,
Um,
listen, be
yeah.
clear. I am not endorsing Sherrod Brown. You can feel however you want to feel about Sherrod Brown. I'm just saying that guy doesn't represent the best of what Ohio can produce. That I want to be clear about. There
I ain't
are
got no beef
good,
with Sherrod Brown.
hardworking people in the state of Ohio who don't believe or subscribe to what J.D. Vance is selling, and there's more of us than there are of him. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's yeah. He's not. He doesn't look like he don't. He ain't no kin to me.
Thank you, Captain Obvious. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Well, on that note, I want to thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for helping me relaunch this and kick this off on a new platform. This was fun. This was a good time. And for the people that don't know, these are just conversations we have all the time. We're just putting them on wax so that way people can get a sense of what we're doing and where we're going. And I imagine a lot of you might feel the same way. So if you feel the same way, hit us up, get back at us. We appreciate it. And with that, we'll rock with you guys later. Hey, listen, love you guys. Appreciate you. Can't thank you enough for jumping on, man. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Anytime.
Deuces.
All right, man. I'll holler at y'all. Peace.
So yeah, it says we're still recording. I would agree.